Butthole breathers, you're in for a treat today. I have Regina Lawrence, who is a breath worker and sound healer. And we are just really going to dive into some fun stuff today. So get ready.
The goal here is to learn how to treat your mind and body like a professional athlete. Welcome to Mind Your Body. I'm Dr. Audra Lance. I'm a doctor of chiropractic who specializes in treating sports and non-surgical injuries. Anything that involves muscles and joints. I treat big-name celebrities and professional athletes. Most of my patients refer to me as the witch doctor because they can't explain any other way their pain was removed that quickly. I hate cooking, but I do love wine, and don't even think about giving me anything that involves ketchup because I will not eat it. Every episode of this show is designed to help you move better, live better, and feel better. Now let's go do this thing.
Excuse me, I just want to interrupt this episode from a message from me, your sponsor. Don't forget, game plans are on sale for the 4th of July. What a better way to celebrate than help yourself feel better. So it's for a limited time. Go get them now. All of them are on sale. Fix your foot, fix your back, fix your neck, and de-stress. Link is in the show notes. Swipe up. Let's get to it.
Good morning. Thank you for being on.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
I feel like people are thinking it's a trend of sound, bath, and breath work, but it's really not. And I just wanted to dive in today and really get in the nitty gritty of all of it. So first, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I am a retired attorney. I was an attorney for 7 years. I was an attorney, a trial attorney, a law professor. And I had chosen that life and that path and that career because it was the thing that I was supposed to do. I was the good girl choosing the good thing. I grew up in a lot of chaos and I wanted a life that was different than the life that I had been raised in. And so that's why I chose that path. And I realized pretty quickly into that career that it was not going to fulfill me. I thought that my job, my business would be the thing that would fulfill me. And it didn't. And so by the time I was 30, I had a breakdown in my office and I was at the pinnacle point of my career. I was working in a great firm. I had a partner who I had been with for 7 years. I was on my way to becoming a partner, doing all the things, so deeply unhappy with my life. And I ended up having this massive panic attack on my office floor, which it was not unusual. I had panic and anxiety and stress all the time. Floor in a pencil skirt and a pair of Louboutins, my arms stretched out, and I put on a headspace meditation because I just started diving into meditation a little bit. And I heard a voice say, "Your life doesn't have to be this fucking hard." And I said, "Well, what do you want me to do?" And I heard, "You have to fucking figure it out." And that was like the first time I had such a ping from the divine in that way. And that catapulted me into quite literally changing my entire life.
Did you just blow it up right then and there?
I didn't blow it up right then and there. I'm a Virgo. I'm a planner. It took about 3 years of really figuring out what I wanted to do. When I made my exit, everybody thought it was a blow up because it seemed so crazy, but it was a slow burn for me.
Okay. And then how did you I know you said you put on that meditation and you were just starting it, but how did you really dive into the breath work and even the sound bath stuff?
So after I blew up my life, I made the decision. So I lived in Philadelphia and I knew I wanted to get out of where I was from. I didn't want to live in winter anymore. And I didn't want the comfort of being able to come back to practice because I knew that I would get scared and I knew I would go back to what was easy for me, right? And so I made the decision that I was going to move to Arizona. I went to visit my gay best friend in Arizona and I was like, I'm supposed to be here. This is where I'm supposed to be. And very quickly, when I moved to Arizona is a place that we people often are called to the desert because it's a place of healing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why Arizona has Sedona and it has so many different beautiful healing spaces. And so I was called there because I was like, oh, Scottsdale is like such a vibe. Like I want to live here. It's bougie. It's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
But very quickly, I officially moved there in May to live with my dear friend.
Mm-hmm.
And he relapsed when I moved in with him. And I helped him get into rehab. And then I spent the summer dealing with all of my own shit, my own codependency. And in that, I met one of my very best friends who is a shaman and a breath worker and just a magical woman. And she looked like no other spiritual person I had ever seen. Because in my mind, spirituality meant you smell like patchouli, you have hairy armpits, and you wear long skirts with buttons up the front. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you guys see me, that's not my vibe. I'm a girl from Philly. Like, it's not my vibe. Yep. And so I met this girl, this stunning Russian girl, covered head to toe in tattoos. And she introduced me to breathwork. And the first time I did breath work with her, it quite literally changed my whole life and my whole view of what I wanted to do with my life.
Oh, so you got like kind of some clarity during that.
Oh, my very first breathwork session, it was like, oh, this is why you're here. This is what you're meant to do. This is why you moved to Arizona. This is why you were born into the trauma and the family you were born into. Like it unlocked like I say my third eye. It unlocked this like new level of connection to my subconscious mind. And I had such clarity about like what I was doing, especially at a time where I felt so crazy for doing the things that I was doing.
Yeah. Because I mean, telling someone on the street that, or even people in your hometown, or even, well, not Arizona, because I go to Sedona a lot. So everyone's kind of on that path over there, like healing themselves. But people look at you, I bet, and we're like, are you crazy? Did you just dive off the deep end? Because
exactly.
Why would you leave a job as a high power attorney to go blow up and figure out what else you want to do? And that takes a lot of courage. And I mean, I so admire that of digging deep and just being like, okay, this isn't it. So let's figure out what is.
Yeah. And that was the start of the journey.
Oh my gosh. So you had said that your first session just like totally changed you. I've heard from some people, another doctor was telling me they did one and they almost had like, they called it tripping. Like they were tripping. Does that happen frequently, or like, can you expand more on what they're talking about?
Yeah. So what happens during different styles of breath work is that DMT in small amounts is released, and DMT is released the most when we're born and when we die. And so that's why when people have psychedelic medicine experiences with DMT, they often will have the experience of being born and dying. Like it's like when people talk about the death of ego is really related to the fact that like there is a part of you that dies. And so, and I say that from, I've worked with the medicine of DMT quite a bit in ceremony. And so in breathwork, DMT is released. Wow. And so because of the DMT release.
So is one session that like the magical, the fix, like, or is this something where you're like, okay, you need to have some sort of practice on a regular basis? Or we like to give people like one or two really specific good exercises for what they're dealing with. Like, how do you, I guess, prescribe that in your world?
What I always say to people is breathwork is a practice. So it's something that we work on and work on over time. When you first do breath work, you can have this like everybody has, what I always say is, I don't know what your experience is, but you're going to have an experience. I've never once had anybody, even the most resistant people, not have something happen, because breathing is the life force of our bodies. And most of us, as you know and teach, are not breathing right. We are not breathing deep enough. We are not utilizing the medicine that is our breath the way we could. And so if somebody is just getting started and they're like, you know what, I want to start doing some breath work, you can set an alarm on your phone for 5 minutes and you can sit down, close your eyes, and just start to take deep belly breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, and do it for 5 minutes, and do it every morning. And you will see such a profound impact, even on your mental health, how you're feeling, how you're breathing. And I always tell people, if you're interested or curious or even feel resistance, it's just breathing. Try it for 5 minutes a day. Try it for a month for 5 minutes a day. And then tell me how you feel when you actually follow that for a month.
And you bring up such a question that I've been so excited to talk to you today, because it's something like I try to wrap my head around and I don't have the answer, but I just want to hear your thoughts on it. Why are we so fucking resistant to breathing? Like, why do we have so much resistance? It's so simple. And like, I'm saying same thing, 2 to 5 minutes, like you are, of especially like the diaphragmatic breathing. Why are we all so resistant to it? I'm guilty of it too, of like, nah, we'll kick it down the curb.
Absolutely.
Why? What's the reason behind it?
I think we're resistant to the things that seem too good to be true. I think we're resistant to the things, like some of the most potent things that can change our entire lives are simple. Drink more water. Get outside in the morning and get sunshine in your eyes. Take a walk after you eat a meal for 15 minutes.
Yep.
Right? Like, take 5 minutes of breaths every morning. All that stuff is so simple. Simple's not always sexy.
Mm-hmm.
But the simplicity of the things that we can do that are deeply healing, because we've been conditioned, I think, as a society to think we need a system, we need a plan, we need a diet, we need a supplement. A lot of times you just need to fucking breathe and get sunlight in your eyes and you'll be a different human.
Mm-hmm. No,
and I'm guilty.
True.
I'm guilty of it too. The reason why I say set a timer for 5 minutes is because I make myself do that. I don't want to breathe every day and like have intentional breathing time. No. And I live and breathe and die by this shit, right? Mm-hmm. But 5 minutes will literally change your life.
Mm-hmm. No, I so agree on that. And like, that's one. And I think we don't like being uncomfortable. And when you're sitting there breathing, it's a little uncomfortable, especially if you haven't been breathing. Number one, like you say, breathe, bitch.
Yeah.
And two, doing it correctly. A lot of people are using, their scalenes and their SCMs and this chest breathing instead of down here into your pelvic floor and into your back. And that's uncomfortable. But then also, because this happens to me, I'm like, I'd say like 90 seconds in, my mind starts to race a little bit and like wants me to get out of it because it's uncomfortable. And I just feel like, part of me is like, oh, give up. Because we don't, as a society or humans, like being uncomfortable. We like to live in this little middle part where you're comfortable, but then you're not expanding, you're not growing. Exactly. And most people are sick and in pain.
Exactly. And also there's something about sitting and being with yourself. Like I always say in sessions, like be with yourself, be with yourself, be with yourself, because we don't want to. Mm-hmm. And so sitting for 5 minutes is sitting in I call it like the white space, like the abyss of the white space. That's where the deepest transformation happens. It's also where we see our shit that is holding us back from changing and from evolving. And sitting in stillness and silence in the white space can be very scary.
Oh, for sure. And you were saying before, I'm curious to see if you have any examples. Like, it's so healing. Like we see that people talk about, Gary Brecka even talks about it, because all disease and pain starts, one of the components of when it starts is a lack of oxygen to the tissue. So either you're getting a fibrosis, you're getting some lack of, blood flow and oxygen to that tissue, and it can, cause disease. And most importantly, inflammation. And that's the hot topic everyone will realize here is inflammation. And that's, stress and lack of blood supply. So this breath work and getting oxygen to your tissues, like what examples have you seen in your clients from a pain, injury, disease standpoint, like the transformation? Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, I mean, people have had so much healing with breath work to their physical body, feeling a relief in pain, even starting to, sometimes we're so disconnected from our body that we don't actually know that the pain is there or where the pain is at. And we can sometimes then people can start to pinpoint where the pain is at so they can actually work on it. I've seen so many people with digestive issues, myself included. I grew up with a host of, I think, trauma-related digestion issues and hormonal issues.
Your issues are in your tissues.
Exactly. And so doing bouts of breath work has really helped myself and people I've worked with, like, really start to heal deep digestive issues.
Yeah, no, I think that's really good. And I've seen like when we're doing, it's a little shortened compared to what you do, but even just breathing, like the tension in their jaw, the headaches, and you just get a little bit more like clarity, which we all have this brain fog. And some of it's because you're not breathing.
Exactly.
So what does like a session with you, and if you guys aren't watching YouTube at our antics, you should be. But what does like a session look like? Like how long is it? What should someone expect? What should they look for if they're going to someone around them? And like, do they have access to you? Just all the things.
Yeah. So a session is usually around an hour long. And that's if I'm doing a private session. If I'm doing it with a large group, it might be longer, or my virtual sessions, even virtual groups, are about an hour. Mm-hmm. And what you can expect is at the beginning of every session, I open the container and I lay the ground rules. So I want people to understand, like, this is why we're doing what we're doing. This is how the breathing will go. So they have a roadmap of like where we're going. And then I also like to tell people things that can happen during breath work, sensations that you can feel in your body. Numbness and tingling is something that we often feel in different parts of the body, especially when we're not used to this style of breathing. I like to give people a little bit of insight about emotions, like to move up and out of the body during breath work. Emotions are energy a lot of times that just needs to move, and it could be things that are stored in the body that we've been holding on to for so long that we don't even know that it's there and might want to move. So I give a kind of overview at the beginning of what to expect. And then I have everybody lay down, get comfortable. When I do a longer session with people, I recommend they lay down, eyes closed. And then I do a little bit of a guided meditation to just calm everyone down. And then we go into the breath. We do the really active breathing probably for about 30, 35, 40 minutes, depending on the person in the group. And then the way that I structure my breathing is we really go intense. And if you like see me on YouTube, my hands going up, it's like we're crescendoing up. And when we do that, we're doing mouth breathing and we're kind of spiking the nervous system. And I say it's spiking the nervous system like you do in a good workout, right? Mm-hmm. When you breathe in and out of the mouth, it can kind of spike your nervous system. So I bring them up and then we switch to nose breathing. When we breathe in and out of the nose, it's actually much more calming and regulating for the nervous system. So then I bring them back down into a theta state. So theta is the state that we get to right before sleep. It's like that deep meditative state. So it's really, we go on a journey, but then you come back down. And then I slowly bring everyone out of the experience at the end. And then I hold space for what came up for you. How are you feeling? You know, what was moving inside of you? What did you see? Just so people have a safe space to then recap things that have come up during their breathwork experience.
So I'm in a field of chiropractic, and a lot of people are hesitant of chiropractors because we've gotten this label as quacks. But we all know that's in every type of medicine, of dentists, OBGYNs, everything.
Yep.
It's just for some reason. Now, what to look for as a client new to this, that we don't end up with like the small percentage in your field of someone that's like not practicing organically into the best serving the client. What are we looking for?
A couple things I want to know when I talk to a breathwork practitioner. One, I want to know how long they've been doing it. Are they new at this, or do they have experience doing this? I want to know if they're trauma informed. So if things are coming up, if traumas are coming up and moving up, what is their plan of action to offer assistance? So for me, I'm a trauma informed breathwork guide. I know how to deal with different physical things that come up in the body and how to give guidance. I also am trauma informed, and I'm not a trauma therapist. When they don't have a safe space that they can talk things out with, I will refer out to someone else. Those are the big things for me that I want to know.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you were talking about that numbness, tingling that comes up in different spots. Where's the most common spot? And like, what does that mean? Because that can be really scary for some people.
A lot of times people get numbness and tingling in their hands, their face, their neck, their throat. I think, so the numbness and tingling, especially in the hands, is really just you're breathing in such an intense way that the body's not used to like all of that oxygen moving through the body like it is. It's not used to you breathing like that. I think that the body talks to us though through different things. So when we feel the numbness and tingling in our hands, a lot of times you'll see people, their hands will ball up and like kind of lift off the ground. A lot of times that's a sign for me that somebody is really controlling and they're trying to hold on to and control the situation. And maybe there's something in their life that they need to let go of. That's the hands are a big one. The second thing that I see a lot is numbness and tingling in your mouth, your neck, your throat, your chest. All the places where your voice moves up and out of. A lot of times the people that have that, it's because there's something that needs to be said, that needs to be spoken, that needs to be lived out in their life, and they're not doing it. And it always happens like that. Like the people who have the tightness of breathing and they're like, I can't breathe deep. It always ends up that there's something in their life that like they have been ashamed to use their voice. They've been silenced. They've been told like, be quiet. So those are the two I see the most: the hands, the face, the neck, the throat, the chest.
Wow. Yeah, that's so cool. And it's like the connection of the science and the Western medicine with essentially Eastern medicine, because a lot of that is like taught in acupuncture and just how they diagnose different things. And I love connecting them both. And I know you're doing the same thing with what you do. Tell me when someone comes in and you're like, oh, this is exactly like the stressed out person who's not into their body, who just like has been ignoring it. What does that look like to you as they're walking in the room?
Meaning like, how can I see that?
Yeah.
People that are very stressed out in their body, like there's a few different ways. They usually come in and they're like they're stressed and they're rushing and they're, like the way they move their body, like, you know, and they usually come in, like, even if they're not late, they're acting like they're late and they're, you know, kind of setting up their stuff and you just feel it in their body. And also just energetically, when somebody comes into a space, like you can feel the energy radiating from a person. Like if you're sitting next to somebody who's stressed out of their mind, you feel it,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
So when somebody comes into that space and they're resistant or they're stressed or whatever, I can feel that radiating from them, but you can physically see it in the body too.
I was wondering because my husband and I play this game at the beach usually or anywhere. Like, well, number one, when people are walking by, are their boobs real or fake?
Two, great question. Yep.
Two, I try to predict what pain they have if I think they have pain, like just looking at their body. And sometimes I'll go up and ask them and see if I'm right. Yeah. But I feel like you, with what you do with like the energy and the stress and the breathing, you probably can play a similar game at the beach, on the street, in the airport, whatever, of, okay, this person's probably struggling with this person, you know, which that's why you got to make games out of everything. It's fun.
Totally. You got to gamify things. Yeah. I can look at people and encounter people and I can be like, oh, and get a good read on energetically what's going on with them.
That's so cool and such a gift. And I think so many people like just aren't, like you said, into our bodies or listening to our bodies to be able to be even aware of not only themselves, but the people around them. Because I feel like we're all just too stressed out, turned off, in pain, in disease, and just thinking that's normal. And this is not normal.
We have been so conditioned to think that we've been gaslit, actually.
Oh, absolutely.
To believe that so many things going on in our bodies are normal. Like as a woman, we have been gaslit our whole lives to think that having painful periods and PMS and that we gain weight. Yep. And that we're supposed to like gain a lot of weight as we get older and go through menopause. It's a fucking sham.
It is, for sure. Absolutely. And everyone wants the quick fix of the pill. But the funny thing is, breathing, using your breath, like even if that's the only exercise you do for your pain or your stress, like that is a quick fix. But for some reason, I know the reason, because you don't make money off of it in the big industries. But it's like, why are we not taking this more seriously and diving into the science, you know, and making this your number one thing when you go to the doctor?
It's literally a quick fix. It can change your state in moments, but it's not sexy.
No, and it's boring as watching paint dry on a wall.
Yeah, totally.
But it works. And I think we're overstimulated constantly with the dopamine hits. And so we really don't like it.
No. And even myself, like I'm aware of a lot of things, And I just said to one of my best friends the other day, I need a dopamine detox. Like I need to be off my phone and my devices more because
Same.
I'm feeling like dopamine, like my dopamine is being taxed in a big way right now. And I don't like it.
Mm-hmm. And then like anytime I've done that, like I love going somewhere and just turning my phone off, but it takes me 2 days at least to not be like reaching for it. It's so
Totally.
sad.
I know I'm
It's
the same
so
way.
sad. One other thing I wanted to dive in with you about is sound, what a sound bath is like, and where does that come from and how is that? Because I mean, I've done that a couple times and it is one of the most relaxing things. But walking into it, I was so confused. I'm like, okay, do I get in a bathtub and listen to music or like what is going on during that?
I know. So a sound bath is really an arrangement of musical sounds that should be curated in a way to take you into a deeply relaxing meditative state. And a good sound practitioner is like a sound scientist, where we understand that different instruments have different impact on the body and the nervous system. And we curate the sounds in such a way to take you again into that deep theta meditative state so that you can be really, you've done sound baths, you leave and like you don't necessarily fall asleep, but you come out of it and you're like, wow, I feel so rejuvenated. That's good. Like good sound healing should do that for you.
And what exactly, like, is it a frequency that you're trying to hit? Like, what is it that takes the body into that state? Because, like, I know acupuncture and like that stuff, how that happens with the meridians and, the chi and all that. But, like, what is the sound, like, science?
Yeah, it's the frequencies of the music. Every instrument has a different frequency. And it's how those frequencies are put together. Like the sound bowls are a really good example of frequency because each bowl has a different note and is tuned to different frequencies. And so it's really just the frequencies, and it has been shown the impact that the frequencies have on healing the body. There's a lot of studies about like because we're made up of so much water. And the impact, you'll see like different things with sound and water and the impact that the sound has on the water. It does a similar thing in our body and in our nervous system.
That's really cool. So it's kind of along the same, like we all have an electrical charge, like you said, and you can feel the energy when someone walks in, like a PMF mat of that's helping your frequency. This is just another way through a different, sense essentially with your ears.
Exactly. And that's why I pair sound and breath together a lot.
That was my next question.
That's my favorite. The most magical combination, I think, is guiding through breath work. And then once breath work is finishing, I go right into sound healing.
Okay. So you do the breath work first, then sound. Why?
Yeah. Because I feel like the style of breath I teach is so activating. And like I told you guys earlier, it's the crescendo. I bring you up and then I bring you down into a theta. And when you're already in that place, it makes sense to just go in with the instruments and really take that meditative experience and just prolong it for another half hour.
Oh my gosh. This is just makes me want to do all this today. I was just over in Switzerland for a client and I've been overseas a bunch and I know you travel a bunch and you host these amazing retreats. But one of the things that I observed that I finally feel like I put my finger on it, everyone's like, Europeans are healthier. It's because they eat better and stuff. Well, everyone's smoking over there like a chimney. Yeah. And it makes me want to smoke because it's like cool and they accommodate it everywhere. But I think the reason that the rates of disease is so much lower over there is actually the stress component. Their lives are just centered around different schedules and they aren't in a rush. They aren't killing themselves. Obviously there's exceptions everywhere, but I think it's like combining this breath work and sound healing and just managing, like toning down that level of stress would help us a lot. What are your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. Everything we do, especially in America. So I live in America, but I'm moving to Mexico in October.
Oh my gosh. So tell us how you got to that.
So I'm moving to Tulum, Mexico. It is my happy place. It is the place where I go and my nervous system is just so calm and soothed there. I also love the lifestyle. I love the simplicity of it. Like I have a beautiful apartment in the jungle. I ride a scooter to the beach and to the grocery store and to my favorite coffee shop. I walk everywhere. There's these Mayan fruit markets where the native people are selling fresh fruit that is like the freshest and best that you can get. The lifestyle is just different. And even though like Tulum, parts of it have been more commercialized, like the hotel zone, Tulum is very much like a true Mexico experience. Mm-hmm. And so I love it. I love the lifestyle. I love the people. I love the culture. I love that things are slower. I love that like things that we take so fucking serious in America, they're not that serious. I love when I go to the grocery store, I have less options.
Yep.
Like it's just even those little things in day-to-day life, like going to the grocery store and having to choose between 75 coffees is like, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's a lot of bandwidth.
Give me 3 options. You know, there's less options for things, which I'm very excited about. And I think like, you know, when we think about Europeans and people that live in other countries, like, I think they know how to live. Their life doesn't necessarily revolve around work. Mm-hmm. And like that, like in America, life revolves around living and experiencing and doing other things, having hobbies and interests outside of work.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think the first step to all that, as like cliche and weird as that sounds, but it's breathing, because you gotta tone it down here to be able to live.
You gotta tone it down to be able to live, and breathing is such a great way. Like what we can emulate from people that live in these countries where they, you know, have less stress levels as it's been studied, is they take space for themselves to do different things. So taking 5 minutes of breath work, doing 5 minutes of breath work is taking space for yourself to do something for you. Right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so it just makes such a difference. And it's something that we can take into our day-to-day lives.
And I know you have this world renowned, you're very passionate about, you know, connecting with other females and helping them. And you have world renowned retreats. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah. So one of my retreats that I do every year, and I'll host another one this year, February 5th to the 10th. I like to create a little healing portal for people to come to take a break from life and to really be with themselves, be with other like-minded women, and do some deep healing work that we don't always have the space to do in our day-to-day life. And so my retreat that I host in Mexico, it's right outside of Tulum on an ecological reserve called Can. You have to have access to get on and off the reserve. And we have this luxury estate that I utilize for the retreat. And our friend Tiffany was there, and she walked in and she said, this is the 4 seasons of healing experiences, because I believe that healing gets to be luxurious. I don't think you have to rough it for healing work. And I'm not the kind of girl that wants to rough it in any part of my life.
No,
it's this magical place. The way that I program it is really structured to give you time and freedom to have fun, but then to also make space to sit with yourself and ask yourself big questions and do deep healing work.
Yeah. And I mean, I know our friend was saying, she had messaged me when she got there and she's like, Audra, there's a candle butler, and sent me a video of like,
yes,
it was, I mean, and you don't even realize how relaxing and healing that is within itself. So you're even going to the little details of
every detail. There's a candle butler that comes through, and all the rooms and all the spaces are filled with candles, and they go through and light all the candles at night. There's a full kitchen staff that makes these delicious, healthy, farm to table 5-star meals for every meal and every snack. You're actually on the beach. So the one side of the property is facing the ocean. The other side of the property is facing the lagoon. So you have this private, like white sand beach with no one for miles. It's so relaxing and regulating for your nervous system.
Oh, I love it. That sounds so nice. So I'm sure everyone listening is like, okay, how do we get access to you? Whether, I don't know if you have any like free things like newsletters or any of the samples of breathwork, or how can they like make an appointment with you, or how do they get more information about stuff? And we'll have it all in the show notes too, but just so that people know.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at Regina A. Lawrence. If you follow me, my team will send you a message and send you a free breathwork experience that you can do on your own. It's like 5 or 6 minutes. It's pretty short. In addition to that, I have a breathwork membership. It's breathewithregina.com. I host 2 virtual breathwork sessions a month, and then live on Zoom. And then I have a library of mini breathworks, mini sound healings, meditations, walking affirmations, really anything you need. And it's in an app on your phone. So you can join us live. You can have the app whenever you need it. And I'm starting to do something now where once a month, people can pay and drop in for one of the membership classes to try it out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's amazing. I'm going to have to do this. That sounds really cool. Well, let's leave the butthole breathers with like the most important thing you want them to remember about you and your work and how to help themselves.
Yeah, I want you to remember that breathing is the most potent, accessible, free modality that you have access to at every moment. When you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling tired, when you need to reset. And as long as you take 5 minutes to do deep belly breaths, your life will not be the same.
I love it. So well said. Well, thank you so much for joining us. And
you're welcome.
We will see you soon.
Thank you.
Now, if you want to do something really special for me and got a lot out of this episode, go leave a 5-star written review of the show on Apple Podcast. And if you're a Spotify listener, just tap the 5 stars. To submit any of your health questions to the show, simply DM me on Instagram at Dr. Audra Lance. And don't worry, all your questions will be kept strictly anonymous. So send me all your embarrassing questions. And don't forget, breathe into your butthole. Toodaloo!